What we're seeing in Alberta when it comes to the overdose numbers is remarkable. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic and we want to see this trend continue. But the truth is, if you look across North America, we've had a crisis for overdose deaths increasing for years and years, and COVID just poured fuel on that fire. What you did to those suffering from addiction is you isolated them, you took away their natural supports, their community, their connection to outside. A disease of addiction is fundamentally a disease of isolation, and in a broad sense, the antidote to that is going to be some form of connection. And so COVID and the isolation was just horrible for those suffering from addiction. On top of that, isolation, you also gave everyone a whole bunch of cash in hand, a whole bunch of COVID payouts, and you put those things together and you ended up with a real crisis. And every single jurisdiction that was already suffering from an opioid overdose crisis saw these numbers continue to rise at really dramatic rates through COVID. Since COVID, we've started to see some of that leveling off. And across North America, talking to the Biden administration, I was in Washington last year, about the decreased numbers, they're seeing approximately 10% decrease across the different states when we looked at 2023, 2024. Here in Canada, we're seeing similar things when it comes to, decreases. BC recently announced that they had a 9% decrease, to great fanfare in the media. And I'll be honest, absolute credit to British Columbia. That is a good thing to see. It's a good thing to see across all of North America, this decrease. But what we haven't seen across the rest of North America is what's happening here in Alberta. Just this last month of reporting, September from 2024 to 2023 year over year, saw a 53% decrease. That's more than a 50% decrease in overdose deaths for opioids. That is culminating in something like a 38% decrease in the year over year since 2023 to 2024, compared to 9% in British Columbia and about an average of 10% across North America. So we're close to 4 times higher rates of decrease than you see anywhere else. The reason this is important, well, it's because policy matters, because the decisions we make in government have effects on those living in our jurisdictions. And the decisions Alberta has made has not been to sort of say business as usual when it comes to addiction. The policies that have been offered across Canada have been really modeled in the British Columbia model. They've been the harm reduction model, where you facilitate addiction and you don't have a recovery-oriented system of care, where you don't try and get people out of addiction, off that pathway of addiction, into healing, hopeful recovery again. It's really been policies that have been sort of made iconic with decriminalization, drug consumption sites, unsafe supply. That's what you've seen in British Columbia and across, to differing degrees, most of Canada. Alberta is pioneering this alternative, and the reason it's important that we see this 53% decrease in September year over year and 38% from the start of the year compared to under 10% in British Columbia is because we can see this very clear-cut juxtaposition. Alberta and British Columbia are in effectively the same drug market. We have the same fentanyl flowing through our communities, and we have similar crises when it comes to addiction for a long time now. The fact that Alberta's seen dramatically different outcomes is due, I think, in part because of the Alberta recovery model we've been operating. And this is going to be important for British Columbians to see, because they care about that 9% decrease. They obviously want to see a 38% decrease as well. And it matters because Saskatchewan has got a similar problem going on here. It matters because Ontario is at a decision point which way it's going to go, through the harm production model that BC has pioneered or the Alberta recovery model that we're leading here. And I want to see every single jurisdiction in Canada have the greatest drops in overdose deaths. I want to see every North American jurisdiction have the greatest drops. And what that means right now, and we're cautiously optimistic it continues, it means the Alberta model is the way forward.